Welcome back for another video. I asked 4 FPL World Champions for their current teams. So, who have the champions picked in their drafts? What can we learn from their picks? Let's begin. I'm going to be sharing my updated draft as well tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed. Jonas is a recent world champion, 2,799 points a couple of years ago. An analytical manager, and his team is Raya Williams, Mosquera Shaw, Anderson Bruno, Gross, Szoboszlai, DCL, Haaland and João Pedro. And on his bench he's got Dovin, Canvo, Tavernier and Van der Wijk. I asked each champion for their thoughts and insight as well, so here's what Jonas said. Raya is a safe way into the Arsenal defence, who I think will continue to be good defensively this season, even without Saliba for the beginning. Same goes for Mosquera, and I like that double up. If Nico plays in the Munoz position, he'll prove to be crazy value at 5 million in my opinion. Shaw and Canvo rotate well for the start of the season. Canvo is great for Defcon, potentially the best 5 mil Defcon defender in my opinion. Bruno's got so many routes to points, he's a no-brainer for me. And the same goes for Szoboszlai, who might be on pens, but we don't know if Isak will be the designated pen taker. I still believe Szoboszlai will play 90 and Isak probably not, so he definitely has some pen share. Anderson is the least nailed mid in my team right now, but if Rodri leaves, I think he will continue to do the Defcons. Gross may have pens, in that case he might be the standout 5.5 mil option. And the same goes for Tavernier at 6 million. I believe Kluivert will take pens. He can be in Dye for example if he stays at Everton. Haaland, I don't really think I need to say too much, but João Pedro would be interesting to see how he performs. He came off a good season last year, but can easily downgrade to someone like Solanke and spend that money in midfield. Hopefully Solanke manages to stay fit. I really like him for 6 mil, possibly instead of Calvert-Lewin here, but he has picked up a knock in pre-season, so that's not off to a great start. If Spurs don't sign another striker, I think he will take pens, and he's got good stats to back him up, but there is some rotation risk with him. The structure is also something that's important for me. I've got 14 out of 15 playing players, and there's not a single player that I need more than 2 transfers to get to, which is ideal to begin with. I'm currently looking to bench boost later than Gameweek 1 or 2. Really good team from Jonas, and it's a good reminder how strong a team you can build when you're not working towards the early bench boost. Like that said, if any of you are on a 3-4-3 formation, the only thing about that is you are almost there on that formation specifically, like perhaps Tavernier to a slightly cheaper mid and upgrade Dovin to a 4.5 mil, and then that's almost bench boostable. But I can see the appeal in waiting. And obviously who am I to question an FPL champion? Gross is looking like such good value for 5.5 as he says. In case you're not aware though, Brighton have got to play Europa Conference League playoffs before Gameweek 1 and again right after. So they're playing on Thursday 20th and Thursday 27th. Plus they've got games on the Sundays, the opening weeks, so that's perhaps the only criticism you can have of Brighton assets. It's not great like when they're playing midweek and weekends before a Premier League ball's even kicked. But yeah, set pieces, pens, corners, he's great for 5.5 mil. But yeah, Canvo's been going so under the radar. There's been an unbelievable amount of good 5 mil defenders to be fair, and I think we're going to get at least another couple of Senessis this season. Like last season, Canvo averaged 10.6 Defcons per start. Remember, defenders need 10 to get the +2 points. Only Hill and Senesi averaged more. Well, technically Lacroix did as well, but literally 0.1 more Defcons per start, and he's at Chelsea now. On top of being an FPL champion, Simon's got a bunch of top 10k finishes to his name, and his team is Raya in goal, Vardiol, Tarkowski and Williams in defence, Bruno, Szoboszlai, Gross and Lafay in midfield, Calvert-Lewin, Haaland, João Pedro up front. And on his bench he's got Steele, Pedro Porro, Slater and Thomas. Simon said the following: so in goal, Raya is expensive, but there is value and certainty, and he offers a nailed on route into the best defence in the league. And in defence, Tarkowski's Defcon potential and Vardiol's fixtures make them the rocks of my defence, with Pedro Porro and Nico Williams adding some attacking flair and Thomas as the backup. The midfielder profile I'm looking for is nailed on 90 minutes on set pieces, ideally penalties and some Defcon potential and some open play threat. To varying degrees, these criteria applies to all 4 of Bruno Fernandes, Szoboszlai, Lafay and Gross. I don't expect huge scores from all of these, but I'm banking on their more predictable supply of more moderate points being enough to offset those bigger attacking hauls, which I think are more difficult to predict, particularly at this stage of the season. These types of players often don't need to do too much in order to get a bonus point either, which is a bonus literally. Up front, Haaland's fixtures and captaincy potential justify his place despite the 15.5 million price tag. And if João Pedro can generate 24 attacking returns in a side which finished 10th last season, he's surely a great prospect at 7.5 mil in a likely improved Chelsea. And Calvert-Lewin also looks great for 6 mil with his nailed on status, tendency to play 90 plus minutes and penalties, all adding to his appeal. So actually quite a lot of crossover with Jonas's draft. So the same players: Raya, Bruno, Szoboszlai, Gross, DCL, João Pedro and Haaland. Are any of you sitting on all of those in your team? I'm guessing a lot of you have got at least most of those: Bruno, Szoboszlai, João Pedro, Haaland. We'll have to see if Pedro Porro is back for Gameweek 1 or not, but obviously in his case it's irrelevant anyway. Like, Simon set up really well here to be able to bench him the first game week. Tarkowski is incredibly reliable for Defcons as well, and that should continue. And he's gone for Raya as his Arsenal defensive asset, which is smart. Basically, this team is also set up to avoid committing to an early wildcard. It's not necessarily bad to commit to a Game Week 3 or 4, maybe 6 wildcard, but you know, what if it was possible to not need it with some better longer term picks? That's what I'm weighing up with my team, because there are some really great short term picks. You know, you've got the likes of Hume playing out of position for Sunderland, right wing, but he's a 4.5 mil defender. You've got Mosquera, you've got Shaw, you've got Gomez, and those guys may or may not become issues later depending on the transfer window. Okay, so a lot of overlap between the first two, but how about this next draft with a far more different setup? It's Lovro, who's an even more recent world champion, 2024-25 champion, and he's gone Kinski, Vardio, Calafiori, Munoz, Foden and Bumo, Palmer, Sarr, Brobby, Haaland and João Pedro. So the bench is Dubravka, Wilson, Kadioglu and Thomas. Here's what he said: I'm still waiting for the final preseason games before I start to truly lock players in. So right now I'm mostly just trying to get an idea of what kind of team I can build within the budget. I'm sure my team will look quite different in the final few days before the deadline. But I think a lot depends on whether I decide to go with the bench boost Game Week 1 strategy or not. At the moment I'm slightly leaning towards using the bench boost straight away, but that could still easily change, and I'll need to change the bench if I do. Depending on a few transfers, some players could suddenly become very interesting, especially if their roles within their teams change significantly. I'm also still fighting an internal battle over the Defcon defenders, so for now I've gone with more attacking options. I think the start of the season could be really interesting with so many new managers around the league. I'll probably spend the first few game weeks observing how things develop and looking for interesting picks to target when I eventually use my wildcard. So no Bruno in his team, instead he's gone for Palmer, and he's spread that money around the team with 3 5.5 mil defenders, his cheapest midfielder as well being 6.5 mil Sarr. He's even got 6.5 mil Wilson on the bench to rotate in. It's potentially too much money to have sat on the bench, 6.5 mil, that is a lot. I think Wilson might end up sharing some set pieces of Stack, or he might not take them at all, which puts me off him a little bit despite how good he was at Fulham. But let's see how he beds in. I mean, who am I to question an FPL World Champion? Palmer's another question mark as well for me personally. Like, he's not lit it up in pre-season, unlike João Pedro, so is Palmer back or is there still something going on there? Lastly, Ben Crabtree, who won FPL with style points, going no Liverpool the entire season just because he's an Everton fan. This was right before Salah arrived at Liverpool, and I'm sure he's finally glad to see the back of Salah. And now maybe avoiding Liverpool might work again. He's gone for Bruggen, Vardiol, Mikalenko, Calafiori, and Bumo, Semenyo, and Dye, Cunha, DCL, Haaland and João Pedro. So he's got a bench of Rushworth, Rodgers, Bogle and Van der Wijk. Ben said, I've settled on my attackers quite quickly with just a little question mark over Rodgers starting Game Week 1, but I've been unsure on the defence. After deciding to bench boost in Game Week 2, followed by a likely but not locked in wildcard shortly after, I've landed on some cheaper defenders that I'm happy with due to the short term nature of them. Vardio and Calafiori I like a lot, but they are rotation risks. I'm hoping good early form will at least keep them secure at the beginning. Bogle, Mikalenko and Van der Wijk all have reasonable fixtures for Game Week 1 and the Game Week 2 bench boost. The plan is to have 2 transfers for Game Week 3 where I'll likely make at least 1 defensive transfer, hoping my attack will be in good shape and not need any changes. In midfield, the double up of Man United is to attack the first 2 fixtures and having to make the compromises that Fernandes requires. Cunha has a question mark over him at the moment, so I'll monitor his likely start and I might have to make a late change. Solis would be on my thoughts here in the absence of another good, affordable Man United midfielder. Unless his form drops, then Semenyo looks like a season keeper. And Dye would ideally be Dewsbury Hall and would probably become him if the Cunha to Zolis switch happens. Rogers is a player I really like, and it's okay for the bench in Gameweek 1 on the assumption that he's deemed fully fit to start Gameweek 2. I see myself owning him for a lot of the season. Up front, it feels like the obvious three. Haaland and the underpriced Pedro are easy picks, with DCL having the pre-season form and early fixtures to be the safest bet for the 6 mil slot. In goal, I'm keeping it cheap with Rushworth just for the bench boost. Again, a Cunha to Zolis switch would allow me an upgrade where I could go for a 5 mil keeper. So he's the only world champion here going for the Game Week 2 bench boost as it stands. The midfield is absolutely incredible, obviously no Bruno, but it does go to show how much you can do without Bruno. Like, you've got both Mbeumo and Cunha, who could easily link up for goals with Bruno uninvolved, and you wouldn't be at all surprised. It allows you to also have Semenyo, who is tearing up in pre-season as well, plus Rogers and Ndai. And as an Everton fan, the 2 picks he's gone for is Mykolenko and Ndai, so that's some food for thought as well. Which is your favourite draft? And let me know if you'd like me to invite the champions back for a final one before Game Week 1. Hit subscribe. I'm going to be sharing my updated draft tomorrow as well. See you soon for the next one.